what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about my 2016 Oscar predictions. Before I get into the predictions, first off, there's going to be links in the description to each of these categories, so if you don't want to see me talk about whichever category you want to just rush to particular categories, you can do that in the links in the description. I usually do 2 Oscar videos, one on one Monday being the predictions, and then another one on Monday morning, usually where I'm wearing a tux and look all fancy, where I talk about the award show, where I do kind of an Academy Awards reaction video. So come back in a week for that, I guess, and see how right I am. Although I kind of like being wrong, to be honest. I don't like being right about the Oscars. It's kind of super incredibly boring when you're right. I'm mostly right, but sometimes I'm not. This year's a little up in the air. Best Supporting Actor. I'm doing this in the order they actually do them at the Oscars, or at least they did last year. Best Supporting Actor. Now, most likely it's going to be Stallone. Stallone is the odds-on favorite. Most of the acting awards are pretty much decided for. It's more being a coronation than anything else. It's like so decided, it's ridiculous, but Stallone's most likely going to win. He hasn't been nominated since 1977. This would be his second acting nomination, his first in this category. He did not win for Rocky, even though Rocky did win Best Picture. So if he won, this would be his first win. Christian Bale has won in this category before. This is his third nomination and second time in this category, and he won before. Mark Ruffalo, this is his third nomination, third time in this category. It's Tom Hardy's first nomination. And Mark Rylance, so this is his first nomination, and he's won 3 Tonys, so that might actually give him an edge, and he was actually really good. I was disappointed that Richard Jenkins from Bone Tomahawk wasn't nominated, Idris Elba from Beasts of No Nation, Jason Mitchell, who played Eazy-E in Straight Outta Compton, and most of the cast of Hateful Eight. But I think Stallone's most likely going to win. Now, Best Costume Design. Most likely it's going to be Sandy Powell, but which Sandy Powell movie? Because she is nominated twice for Carol and Cinderella. Odds are it's probably going to be Cinderella. I just don't see it going to anyone else. Mad Max Fury Road is probably the most versatile of these. I'm also kind of disappointed, despite Crimson Peak not being a great movie, how come Crimson Peak didn't get more technical awards? Because technical wise, like costume design, production design, I think it actually deserves some nominations, frankly, which is kind of my other problem with the Oscars, is they just nominate a bunch of the same shit over and over again. Best Makeup and Hairstyling, it's going to probably definitely be Mad Max. Expect Mad Max to probably win the most awards of the night, and most of them will probably be in technical categories. Maybe The Revenant they might tie or something, but I think Mad Max will win quite a few Oscars. Sometimes a stranger movie will get nominated for Best Makeup and Hairstyling, and this year's is The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared, which I've never heard of, but somehow got a nomination. So congrats to the people who did this. I think it's a foreign movie. I have seriously no fucking clue. Best Sound Editing, I think will go to Mad Max. Best Sound Mixing, I think could go to The Revenant. Basically what could happen is one of these sound awards could go to The Revenant and one to Mad Max, but I think Mad Max will either win one or both. I do not think The Revenant will win both. Mad Max, if you think about how propulsive and amazing the editing was and how cool the choices were, a lot of that has to do with how great the sound was mixed and the sound was edited, and I think the technical feat of Mad Max will certainly give it quite an edge. Best Foreign Film. I haven't seen any of these. I don't know much about it, but as everyone says, don't bet against the foreign film that has to do with the Holocaust, and that's Son of Saul, so expect Son of Saul to win. That's my prediction. I have no fucking clue with Best Live Action Short and Best Documentary Short, but I wish someone like Vimeo would just let us watch them all online, because it's fucking annoying, because there's no way I'll probably ever see them in theaters, and no one ever will, or they should just get rid of the categories completely. But I frankly think they should just say, go to Vimeo if you'd like to watch these shorts, or go to YouTube. Vimeo I think would be better, but they should do some shit like that, or even Netflix. It'd be a lot better than just going like, wow, that looks cool, can't wait to never see it and think about it ever again. Thanks a lot, Oscars. Best Supporting Actress is most likely going to be Alicia Vikander. It is definitely 100% her year. She's the young ingenue. The Oscars like their women to win when they're young and their men to win when they're old, which says a lot about fucked up gender roles that the Academy is totally into, and you can totally read into that in a creepy, weird Freudian way. This is Jennifer Jason Leigh's first nomination. It's also Alicia Vikander's first nomination, and crazy that she'll probably win. This is Kate Winslet's 7th nomination, third in this category, and she has the third most supporting nominations with 12 other women, tied with Cate Blanchett as well as one of those 12 other women. So I also think it would be cool if Kate Winslet won and Leonardo DiCaprio won in the same year. I think that would be awesome. I don't know if that'll happen. She has kind of a shot. If it's not Alicia Vikander, it's probably Kate Winslet, but it's most likely Alicia Vikander. But the one thing that kind of hurts both her and Kate Winslet is that they're in movies that didn't get a lot of Oscar nominations. So outside of acting, I could see it going either way, but I think because Alicia Vikander has Ex Machina, she had Danish Girl, she had Man from U.N.C.L.E. Maybe that doesn't help. But she's been like a new face, and Oscars like to get on that shit early, you know, before it dries up and dies and they forget about it. Now, best visual effects. Now, this one could go in a lot of different ways. It's actually more of a heated category than most people are giving it credit for. The reason it is because Mad Max made a big deal about all its practical in-camera effects, and many people are kind of interpreting that as, well, is it as visual as like something like Star Wars? Is it as visually and impressive as The Bear and The Revenant? So Mad Max could actually lose this category, but it could win it. If it loses, the other choices are Star Wars and The Revenant. Everything else that's nominated in best visual effects, The Martian and Ex Machina don't have a chance in hell. It's basically between those. I'm gonna go with Star Wars. I think Star Wars will win. Star Wars, they probably want to give something. There is probably more love for Star Wars than people really realize, and so I think it kind of has the edge for visual effects, because with The Revenant it's just like The Bear, and with Star Wars and Mad Max it's like the movie. I think that will give it an edge, but the Oscars do like to award one movie a lot of things, so The Revenant maybe, but we'll see. I'm a little more up in the air, but I'm gonna go with Star Wars. Best animated short film, it's probably going to be Sanjay's Super Team. I don't know a ton about all the films nominated. Don Hertzfeldt would be great if he would win. I would love for him to have an Oscar. It's going to be interesting because I think Pixar will probably walk home with 2 Oscars, and the interesting thing is the short film was attached to a different movie than the film that they're going to have win for Best Animated Feature. Best Animated Feature is an interesting category this year. You have Anomalisa, is the first R-rated movie ever nominated for Best Animated Feature. You have the first Brazilian film ever nominated for Best Animated Feature, Boy in the World. You have the first Studio Ghibli film not directed by Takahata or Miyazaki nominated. A much more diverse category, but Inside Out's probably going to win. And Pete Docter actually has tied now with Miyazaki for the most nominations in this category. The animation category is actually interesting, even though it's just going to go to Inside Out, particularly because it didn't get that Best Picture nomination, which was an atrocity. But hey, it's the Oscars, yay! Best Production Design, I think it's probably going to go with Mad Max. The Martian, I just don't see anything else really peaking from this category. Best Cinematography. Hey, you want to know an interesting fact about Best Cinematography? A woman has never been nominated ever for Best Cinematography. Guess who shot Creed? A woman. Maybe you should have nominated Creed for more things so you wouldn't look like a bunch of sexist, racist assholes. But hey, why do that? Most of the people nominated, like, honestly, should absolutely be there. You have Roger Deakins should probably win. It was probably, I think, the best shot film of the year. Roger Deakins is now tied with this one guy whose name I can't pronounce, who shot Seven Brides for Seven Brothers with most nominations without a win. So that's something. And Emmanuel Lubezki, if he wins 3 in a row, that's the most anyone's won in a row. If he wins another one, then he'll have the most ever. So Emmanuel Lubezki is on quite a hot streak. I think Emmanuel Lubezki will probably win because it's so technically beautiful. I don't think it works necessarily for the movie like Sicario did and Roger Deakins. John Seal, who shot Mad Max Fury Road, also shot The English Patient. That's weird. Robert Richardson might have a little bit of an edge because they made such a big deal of shooting it on film and presenting it in 70mm and such. And I actually like the cinematography a lot of Carol Ed Lockman, who actually, this is his second nomination, he shot on Super 16. So there's a lot of diversity actually in terms of formats they used for best cinematography, but I think it would have been nice if maybe I don't know who I would take out. Maybe Carol for Creed. See, that's tough, but it is interesting to note that no woman has ever been nominated for Best Cinematography. That kind of sucks. Best Film Editing. Now, Best Film Editing is actually probably a more important category than people realize. Usually, every film nominated for Best Film Editing is nominated for Best Picture, and I believe this is the first time that a film's been nominated for Best Film Editing and not nominated for Best Picture, since they've expanded Best Picture and had this year 8 nominees, but they can have up to 10. And the film that was nominated was Star Wars. So everyone who got upset that Star Wars didn't get a Best Picture, it seems like it got close. The fact that it got a nomination in editing kind of feels to me like if there was a 9th or 10th, Star Wars would have probably gotten in there, based on that logic at least. One thing I didn't realize that Star Wars was edited by 2 women. I think the 2 favorites to win are either Mad Max with Margaret Sixel or The Big Short with Hank Corwin, but I think Mad Max probably has the edge just because so many technical categories are going to it and so much was made of that George Miller brought his wife out of retirement to edit it, and the editing of Mad Max is certainly one of the greatest things about it, and it's probably some editing that's going to live on in film history for a really long time, whereas The Big Short's probably going to collect dust on a DVD shelf somewhere. So the editing in that's fine, but it's more showy. I think Margaret Sixel's editing is true great film editing, and I kind of hope she wins, and I'm going to go with Mad Max Fury Road, even though if Big Short does win film editing, start to think that Big Short could win Best Picture. That's what I would say, frankly. Best Original Song, I don't really know much or care that much about this category. It's probably going to be that Lady Gaga song with Deanne Warren. Best Original Score, the two people who could most likely win are the two Legacy Awards, would be between Ennio Morricone and John Williams. I think John Williams is probably the weakest of all his Star Wars scores, and he's been nominated like a ridiculous amount of times, and Morricone actually did not win an American Film Award in competition. He's won one of those like honorary Oscars. He hadn't won an in competition film award until the Golden Globe. So I think there's going to be a lot of people who really want Morricone to win the Oscar, because he should, because like Williams has won plenty of Oscars and Morricone is one of the greatest film composers of all time, and I don't mean that lightly at all. Film students study his scores and the way those scores were used within the Leone films so much, it's like ridiculous he doesn't have one. So I think he will probably win for The Hateful Eight. Best Documentary Feature, I think it'll most likely be Amy. I don't have anything else to say. Best Original Screenplay, I actually think Spotlight has the biggest chance of winning this. Pete Docter, he's been nominated 4 times for Best Original Screenplay. He has been nominated more than anyone else ever for writing animated films in terms of screenplay. No one else has been nominated in the screenplays categories as much as Pete Docter has for writing animated films. So that's something. Spotlight also has Tom McCarthy, who helped write Up with Pete Docter, so that's kind of interesting. Bridge of Spies is co-written by the Coen brothers, and this is the first time they've been nominated for writing a script that they did not direct. Ex Machina is written by Alex Garland, who also wrote Dread, which is kind of surprising. I didn't know that. And I think that is it. Straight Outta Compton is just lucky to be there, but Spotlight is most likely going to win Best Adapted Screenplay. Most likely it's going to be The Big Short. They're going to split the screenplay, The Big Short and Spotlight, making Best Picture even more fucking confusing. The interesting nominees in here, you have Emma Donoghue, who adapted her own book for Room, Martian, which is written by Drew Goddard, who wrote and directed Cabin in the Woods, and Nick Hornby also wrote Brooklyn, and most of the people who did Brooklyn also nominated for An Education, which is interesting. But The Big Short with Adam McKay will most likely win. Best Director, the interesting thing about Best Director is you have 2 nominees who have been nominated for animated films. You have George Miller, who won for Happy Feet, and Tom McCarthy, who was nominated for Writing Up. So it's interesting you have 2 of those in here. I think it'll most likely be Inarritu. If it's not Inarritu, it'll probably be George Miller, because people really love George Miller. But if Inarritu wins, he will have as many Best Director Oscars as Spielberg. And if he wins Best Director and Best Picture back to back, that's the first time that's ever happened. So is Inarritu as good as Spielberg? Is he good enough to achieve this with 2 movies back to back? I don't know, but that's something that will happen. But most of the people in here are first time nominees. This is George Miller's, it's his 6th nomination actually, but it's his first in this category, and everyone else it's their first except for Inarritu, who has 1, and it's his 3rd directing nomination because he was nominated for Babel. Best Actress, it's most likely going to be Brie Larson. It's Cate Blanchett's 7th nomination, 4th in this category. If Cate Blanchett did win, which she's not, but if she did, she'd have as many Best Actress Oscars as Meryl Streep. Is Cate Blanchett that good? Fuck yes, she is. So Saoirse Ronan, this is her 2nd, first in this category. Saoirse Ronan is actually the pick. Like, if I was going to pick someone out of these people, I'd actually think Saoirse Ronan is the best performance. Jennifer Lawrence is her 4th nomination, 3rd in this category. She's kind of over-nominated. Charlotte Rampling, this is her 1st nomination. Best Actor, this is probably undoubtedly going to be Leonardo DiCaprio. There is no fucking way in hell that anyone is going to win this category except Leonardo DiCaprio. The interesting things are, this is Matt Damon's first time being nominated for Best Actor since he was nominated for the first time, which was Good Will Hunting, which is the same year that DiCaprio probably should have been nominated for being in Titanic, but wasn't. So that's an interesting throwback that him and DiCaprio are finally there together. Eddie Redmayne, this is his 2nd nomination. That's pretty, I hate that he's nominated. Michael Fassbender, it's his 1st nomination in this category, but 2nd overall. And Bryan Cranston is actually the oldest nominee, but is the only person this is his 1st nomination, but it's most likely going to be DiCaprio for Best Actor. Now, Best Picture, there's a lot of things about this. Mad Max is the 7th sequel ever to be nominated. It's the 9th time Spielberg's been nominated in this category. Steve Golan is nominated twice for The Revenant and Spotlight, so most likely that guy's gonna go home with a trophy. And actually, did you know Brad Pitt has been nominated as many times for being a producer as he has for being an actor, and that happened with this year. Best Picture is the most confusing because SAG Awards went with Spotlight. The PGA went with The Big Short. The BAFTAs and the Golden Globes have gone with The Revenant. So it's really hard to pick a Best Picture, and I've really thought about this a lot. And I think for Best Picture, it's most likely going to be